How did Jim Crow laws end? How did Jim Crow laws come to an end? To understand this, we need to look back at their origins and the events that followed the American Civil War. The Jim Crow laws began in the late 1870s. Southern states enacted these laws to enforce racial segregation. They aimed to maintain the separation of white people from African Americans in public spaces. This segregation was supported by the separate but equal doctrine, established by the United States Supreme Court in the 1896 case of Plessy versus Ferguson. As time passed, the injustices of these laws became more apparent. The civil rights movement emerged in the 1950s and 1960s, led by activists like Martin Luther King Jr. These brave individuals organized protests and marches, bringing national attention to the unfair treatment of African Americans. Their efforts put pressure on the federal government to take action against Jim Crow laws. A major turning point came with the United States Supreme Court decision in Brown versus Board of Education in 1954. This ruling declared that segregation in public schools was unconstitutional. It effectively overturned the separate but equal doctrine. This decision laid the groundwork for challenging other Jim Crow laws across the nation. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was another significant milestone. This legislation prohibited discrimination in public accommodations, employment, and federally funded programs. It struck down many Jim Crow laws, making it illegal to segregate public facilities. Following this, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was passed. This act aimed to ensure that African Americans could exercise their right to vote. It helped dismantle barriers that had kept many African Americans from participating in the political process. The Fair Housing Act of 1968 further contributed to the end of Jim Crow laws. This law prohibited discrimination in housing, which helped to break down segregation in neighborhoods. The end of Jim Crow laws marked a major shift in American society. It allowed for greater integration in public spaces and opened up access to education and job opportunities for African Americans. However, the legacy of these laws still influences racial tensions and social inequalities today. The struggle for racial equality began during the Civil War. While the Civil War abolished slavery, the Reconstruction period and the subsequent Jim Crow era highlighted ongoing racial tensions. The eventual dismantling of Jim Crow laws was an important step toward achieving true equality in the United States.